And remember you had an Irish coffee the day we went to see Philadelphia?
Oh, they're setting up Cutaways.
Oh my god, is that what we did back then?
If you've watched an episode of Family Guy recently, you might have noticed that this doesn't happen much anymore. In fact, in season 21 of Family Guy, there are 4 episodes with 0 cutaways. In over 400 episodes of the show to that point, only around 15 episodes total could say that. The cutaway is the most famous element of this show, and so in turn, you might think the cutaway is what changed Family Guy. But I think it's bigger than this. I actually think one character has been a mirror for Family Guy through its entire run. And every time the show changes, this one character changes in the same ways with it. Brian Griffin is proof that Family Guy isn't the same show you used to watch.
Oh my god, I know that sound! That means there's a potential intruder at the front door or one of my pals. Either way, I'm really excited and ready for anything! Hello?
To start, we have to look at some numbers, because they'll matter a lot in a minute. This is Space Cadet, and around this episode's air, a forum did a breakdown of this episode's cutaways or cuts outside of the narrative. There were 20, a cutaway a minute. They made up 27% of the episode's runtime. And somehow, in the middle of the episode, there was a cutaway every 25 seconds.
Slow down! I want to get there, but I want to get there alive!
This was the middle of the show's run. In season 11, there were an average of 10 cutaways an episode, which is nothing compared to season 4, which had over 300. Through season 17, there were over 2,500 cutaways. And then they just stopped.
And now that you've gotten rid of network TV, I'm out of a job.
Season 21, for instance, only has a little over 30.
Giggity.
So, what does the change have to do with Brian? Well, Family Guy premiered in 1999. Its initial run was pre-modern internet, and from then to now, Family Guy went through 3 massive shifts in philosophy, and this dog mirrored them perfectly. Early Brian was cynical, but that worked because the character made room for growth and sincerity. Brian was built as the straight man. He reacted the way the audience would. Peter is ridiculous and Brian is embarrassed. When the town is losing its mind, Brian asked why. Brian was funny because he often felt out of place in the insanity of Quahog. The dog was the voice of reason. That was the joke. It's why his disinterested voice acting worked so perfectly. He was a character that had a purpose within the texture of the show. But importantly, Brian was a foundation of early emotional episodes like Portrait of a Dog.
Me and the little shred of dignity I have left will be waiting in the car.
An episode where Brian feels underappreciated in all the chaos. He leaves home and finally reunites with the family with warmth. The show regularly let him be right, which is very important, but it also allowed sincerity to work through him. He was capable of hurt. He was the writer's surrogate to an extent. The show was still trying to balance its humor with real emotion. Early in the show's run, quality meant jokes plus investment. It was laugh and care, and that was Brian's MO. And then came the first big shift.
Hi, I just want to say that I can't tell you how much your book has helped me.
What's your name?
It's Jan.
Okay, here you go, Dan.
This is about a decade later. Brian writes a bestseller. As Family Guy grew more confident and honestly more internet aware, it started to treat sentiment like the internet did, as a joke, which is exactly what is happening here. The season 11 episode is maybe the second most important Brian episode of the show's run. It's here where it's clear Brian as a character has changed, and so is the show. As the show leaned harder into shock and satire, the writers decided that Brian being correct isn't as funny as Brian being wrong. The structure of the dog being the voice of reason, poof, gone. He still would talk like the moral center, but he'd exaggerate his intelligence, pretend to be more progressive than he really is. We weren't meant to nod along with Brian anymore. We were supposed to wait for him to unravel. And Brian writes a bestseller. Brian, does exactly that by writing a shallow, terrible self-help book.
What are you calling it? Wish it, want it, do it.
His dream of being a real writer comes true, and he's instantly unbearable. He's the worst, most arrogant, hypocritical person you can imagine. Brian had gone from being a character used to express truth to a character used to reveal maybe the show's own insecurities. Which is one reasonable way to read this episode, by the way. From here on, Brian bled that internet awareness. Emotion turns to exposure instead. His moral stances are always undercut. There was a lot less warmth in search of more cleverness. Brian wasn't allowed to be right so much anymore. This turning point is quantitative and qualitative. The very next season, Cutaways would rise aggressively in number, nearly doubling, from around 5 to nearly 10 in episode. The show got faster and harsher. So how did we get where we are today, with very little of the original version of Family Guy still being in existence?
No, hear me out. It's just stop. All I'm saying is stop. It's just stop.
Closing in on today's Brian, well, this is his and Family Guy's final big shift in philosophy. Brian has become an insecure caricature of himself. And that insecurity is infectious. Why does season 21 have just 30 cutaways? Well, the heart to satire to cynicism pipeline is complete here with Brian. Modern Brian is the punchline. He's no longer an anchor. He is needy, insecure, self-destructive. As Stewie sharpened, Brian softened. The show actively undermines him. We expect him to fail now. No more, the dog is the voice of reason. The dog is right, that's funny. Now it's funny when the dog is right because it so rarely happens and we expect the dog to be wrong. But this happened farther back than you'd think. In Life of Brian, Brian dies. This was the moment the show decided he was part of the machine. He could be removed, replaced, swapped for shock value. The logical, sometimes emotional safety net he once was completely gone. And today's Brian is representative of that. The humiliation cycle of Brian will exaggerate, get caught, and fail was now built into the character. Failure is now the bit. The show's goal was no longer character-driven comedy, it was irony. And Brian is ironic, insecure shell. So to answer the question, why do Family Guy's newest seasons have so few cutaways?
Oh, there's track star Wilma Rudolph. Obviously, she had something to do with the gag, but I didn't hear the setup, so I don't...
Well, that's where the point lands, and believe it or not, it's kind of a positive one. Early Family Guy required someone to ground its chaos, but modern Family Guy treats the grounding as optional. As Brian lost his foundation as the heart of the family, like dogs are treated in real life, the show became more bite, less sincerity. As Family Guy got meaner and more ironic, he's the character that most absorbed that change. He's the proof of it. Brian didn't just become worse, he became unnecessary because everything became chaos all the time, and the narrative and characters were always a second away from being cut away from. So when Brian stopped being right, in some ways, the show stopped needing to be honest. And when Brian can't be sincere anymore, maybe the show can't either. But it might be learning from Brian, from itself. Newer seasons seem to understand that the show has changed. These new seasons of the show have tried to shift its focus back to character-driven storylines. It's tried to stop using the cutaways as a crutch, with the last few seasons having the lowest total ever. So maybe the show is more self-aware than we think. Or maybe Brian's insecurity is rubbing off on it. It turns out, maybe the show's biggest punching bag is actually the roadmap to everything that makes the show work. How's that for irony? It reminds me of the time...
God, I'm looking forward to this week. Freaking swelled foot all week.
You know, you should probably go ahead and shut that off.
That is it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this one, hit that like button down below. And if you haven't yet done so, hit subscribe. That way you don't miss anything coming to the channel. I am curious in the comments what you think the best animated show on TV right now actually is, or streaming, or whatever. And as always, this has been